Hello, Peace Church.
Sending you a message from Phuket.
We love you and we miss you.
And we wish we could be with you now.
Bye, everyone.
God bless.
Good morning, you guys. I wanted to do something fun. I was hoping maybe in the next few minutes or so, we could just go down to the chats and you can say hello to 5 people, ask them how they're doing, connect with them. Just right now, just go down, find someone in there, find 5 people, type a little message in there, say hello and God bless and welcome them to church this morning.
Close to your heart. May I be a good reflection of all you are. Love that is patient, love that is kind, a love that gets no offenses or wrongs in mind. Make me like Jesus, make me like Jesus, yeah. My heart is an open space for you to come and have your way. You're the King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he's my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, he's my song. You are good, good. You are good, good. You are good, good. You are good, good. Let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he's my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he's my song, 'cause you are good, good. Ooh, you are good, good. Ooh, you are good, good. Ooh, you are good, good. Ooh.
You're never gonna let me down. 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 'Cause you are good, good. Ooh, you are good, good. Ooh, you are good, good. Ooh, you are good, good. When the night is old and on to me, God is old and on. When the night is old and on to me, God is old and on.
and welcome you guys once again. So happy that you're joining us here on these online services. By way of introduction, there's this mentality that we are sometimes prone to entertain that is quite dangerous pertaining to the law. Okay, sometimes in some sermons or some passages or some Bible studies, especially ones that are focusing on the New Testament, we can walk away thinking that in the salvation narrative, that is the story of how of our testimony, how we're saved, that somehow in this narrative that you could come away thinking that it's law versus grace. So what I mean by that is like we might think that there's the law and then grace is like opposite to that, or it's they're against each other, or that grace is the end of the law. We don't need the law now that there is grace, and that if you are under grace, that you can live lawlessly, because grace has come and it's ended the law. That we don't need the law anymore now that there's grace. Actually, there is law in the New Testament. Many laws. There's many imperatives, many commands. So there is law in the New Testament, and there is also, which we're going to look at this morning, there's lots of grace in the Old Testament. So there's law in the New Testament, and there's also grace in the Old Testament. And we'll see that they don't actually oppose each other or refute each other, but they build upon one another. For example, in John chapter 1, as John is writing about the appearing of Jesus, the coming of the Christ, in verse 16, he writes, "For of his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth were realized through Jesus Christ." So here John shows us how the appearing of Jesus, referred to as grace, was upon the law, also referred to as grace. So he equates the receiving of grace. He refutes the receiving of the law through Moses as receiving grace. And so that's what we're going to look at this morning. How is receiving God's commands receiving God's grace? To do that, we're going to look at Deuteronomy Chapter 6. So you can go ahead and find your place there. It's Deuteronomy Chapter 6. And just to give you the quick setting, Moses, he's making a speech, right? He's giving instructions to those entering the promised land. They've been through a lot, right? They've been through the Red Sea. They spent about a year at Mount Sinai where the law was given, and then they wandered for 40 years, and here they are, this generation, they're at the cusp. They're standing at the Jordan, and they can see it. They can see the promised land. It's just right over there, and Moses is making this speech. Okay, so they've been through a lot together to get to this point. There's been ups and downs, and amazing things happen, scary things, wonderful things, all kinds of trials and setbacks, all kinds of victories and failures. But here they are. They've made it. They're right there. They can see it just across the Jordan. There it is. And this is Moses. He's going to give them some. He's making a speech. He's going to give them some advice, some warning. And basically what he's telling them is that, look, you need to remember the covenant. Remember Sinai. And more than that, remember the mistakes that your parents made. You don't want to make those same mistakes. At the same time that he's asking them to look back and to remember the mistakes of the past, he also wants to prepare them for the future. So as you contemplate your parents and their actions, your children in the future will be contemplating yours as well. So this is the words of Moses making a speech about to enter the promised land. And we're gonna read Deuteronomy Chapter 6, verse 20. When your son asks you in time to come, saying, what do the testimonies and the statutes and the judgments mean which the Lord our God commanded you? So this is a great question. Okay, the question is not asking for an explanation of each individual law, and there are many, right? So they're not asking like, why do we have to honor wedding vows, or why do we have to make these offerings, or why is the sacrifice like this, or why can't we make idols? And so they're not asking for an explanation of each individual law. The question, and you can tell by the answer, the question is, what is the significance? What is the significance of God giving us the law? What does it mean that we have it? It's a wonderful, wonderful question, and it's an opportunity for the parents to engage with their children, why they live differently than the tribes and the nations that are around us. You see, these kids, they will be growing up, and that's all they'll know. They'll just know life and the following of this law. They'll know a God that's given their people commands and statutes to follow, and it governs everything about their life. It governs the way they worship, the way they treat each other, the way they handle money, family, friendship, diseases, debt, cattle, crops, food, marriage, court, justice, military, healthcare, economics. It's an all-encompassing way of life. So what these laws did for Israel was it made them a nation that would live in contrast to the nations around it. They were different, right? And at some point, the question would be raised as to why. Why do we have these laws and others don't? What's the significance of that? Moses is telling them that sooner or later, when the kids are growing up and they're starting to mature, they're going to notice that their life is very different. Their manner of life is very different than the tribes around them. And so Moses is saying, look, you got to be ready to answer this question. And I want you to answer this question in a certain way. This question is going to come. And so why are we so different? And actually, this is a great question, and it might even come up in your life. When you take a stand for godliness, when you choose to live different than your coworkers or your friends, and they're not going to understand it, and they're going to ask you why, what's the big deal, or they're going to look at you as old-fashioned, or they might even look at you as someone with no freedom. But here Moses is going to show them, going to tell them how to answer this question. So we'll get back to the text here, and we'll look at verse 21 to 23. Then you shall say to your son, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Lord brought us from Egypt with a mighty hand. Moreover, the Lord showed great and distressing signs and wonders before our eyes against Egypt, Pharaoh and all of his household. He brought us out from there in order to bring us in, to give us the land which he had sworn to our fathers. So Moses is saying, look, when this question comes up of what is the significance of the law? What is the significance that God would give us these mandates, these limits? Moses is like, take this opportunity. Tell them the story. Tell them the story. Tell them that we were slaves and that God saved us. That's the story, right? And for us, this is a great example. When your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers, when they notice that you're living according to different standards, you might seem crazy to them or old-fashioned. They might see the things that are governing, the mandates that are governing your life that distinguishes you from them as something. They might see it as something restrictive or something oppressive, that you're old-fashioned, you have all these restrictions, you're not allowed to do all this fun stuff. But see, the Israelites, they didn't see it that way. The law was a blessing to them. They loved the law. It was a tremendous blessing. The longest chapter in the Bible, it's the longest psalm in the book of Psalms. It's all about their love for the law, for the mandates, for the commandments. It's all about the joy that they had in God giving it to them. They loved the law. This is just a couple of examples from Psalm 119. When I look upon all your commandments, I shall give thanks to you with uprightness of heart. When I learn your righteous judgments, I shall keep your statutes. Your testimonies are my delight. I have placed your ordinances before me. I cling to your testimonies. Your statutes are my songs. I delight in your law. Oh, how I love your law. Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. It's my meditation all day long. It goes on and on like this. Psalm 119, I challenge you to read it and tell me that they thought the law was this restrictive, oppressive yoke that they had to carry around. It's quite clear that the statutes, the ordinances, and the laws were adored by Israel. They loved it. It wasn't some huge chain that shackled them. They saw receiving the law as receiving grace. So why and how would they think that way? Now, to understand, we must understand a little bit about the context that they were in back in the day when they received the law. You see, they were surrounded by all these other nations that pretty much all worshipped the same way. They had all these gods, and all the gods were for were for different things. They had gods for this, gods for that. If they needed rain, they pray. There was a god for that. If they needed a baby, there's a god for that. If they needed rescue, there was a god for that. And they would carve them. They would carve these gods, and although these gods, although they had mouths, they didn't speak. They didn't speak. And the whole concept of life in relation to the gods for these other nations was how can we appease the gods so they're not angry at us, right? So since there are these gods out there, and I must have done something wrong because they're angry at me. If somebody got sick, or the crop failed, or a child died, basically, if any misfortune were to befall somebody back then, it was a sign that the gods are angry at you. So you've done something. Now you have to do something to appease them, to make them not angry at you. And so they would devise all these sacrifices and offerings and prayers. And just to get a taste of this, I want you to bear with me. Just to get a little taste of this, I want us to look at a prayer that dates back into the 7th century BC. This puts it right around the time of the Psalms, and it's a prayer from an Assyrian king that he kept it. He chronicled it. It's been preserved through the library of Ashurbanipal, and that's an Assyrian king. And there was this library of like 20,000 clay tablets, and it would have all these different prayers on it. And I just wanted to read you one of these prayers because it's really interesting. The mindset and the way of how they related to the gods back in their day. This prayer is actually titled "A Prayer to the God That I Don't Know." May the fury of my Lord's heart be quieted toward me. May the God who is not known be quieted toward me. May the goddess who is not known be quieted toward me. May the God whom I know or do not know be quieted toward me. May the goddess whom I know or don't know be quieted toward me. May the heart of my God be quieted toward me. May the heart of my goddess be quieted toward me. May my God and goddess be quieted toward me. May the God who has become angry with me be quieted toward me. May the goddess who has become angry with me be quieted toward me. It goes on and on and on. In ignorance, I have eaten something forbidden by my God. In ignorance, I have set foot on something somewhere prohibited by my goddess. O Lord, my transgressions are many, great are my sins. O my God, my transgressions are many, great are my sins. My goddess, it keeps going. O my God, O my goddess, to the God that I don't know, to the goddess that I don't know. I don't know what I've done. I don't know who you are. Be quieted toward me. It just goes on and on and on. And you just get the sense of how frustrating it must have been to not know why a certain God was angry with you. Not only that, but you wouldn't know what God was angry with you. And not only that, you wouldn't know what they're requiring from you to appease them. So you get this very pathetic prayer to just cover everything. Like, I don't know what I've done, but please don't be angry with me anymore. I mean, could you imagine praying a prayer like this? O God, whom I do not know, be quieted toward me. O my goddess, who I do not know, remove my transgressions. And it goes on, and it's really quite amazing to read. It's pages of this, and they would sit down if some misfortune had befallen them. They would just pray. I don't know what I've done, but please be quieted toward me. So you can see, in contrast from a people that would pray, that they had no idea who the God was that was angry at them, or what they had done to cause them to be angry at them, or what to do about it to make the anger go away or to appease the gods. You can see in this context what a blessing it would have been to be saved by a God that not only speaks but makes his will known. This is a tremendous blessing. This set them apart. This set the Israelites apart from all the other nations. We should notice the order here. Okay, so first, what's the story? That God, they were slaves, and God set them free. He brought them out, and then he gave them his statutes and commandments. So that's slavery, freedom, and then the law. So the law, you have to remember this, really important, that the law was not given to them as a condition for God setting them free. The law was given to them after they were set free in order that they could know how to stay free. Okay, so the commandments and the statutes and laws for us, they're not something that we have to do in order for God to set us free. It's a gift from God. It's a gift it's grace given to us, saying, look, these are the limits on the things which you now have in order for you to stay free. In order for you to stay free. So you can just see what a great blessing receiving this law would have been if you look at it that way. Now let's look at verse 24. So the Lord commanded us to observe all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God for our good and for our survival as it is today. So the law is a gift. It's for our good, right? That was their outlook on the law. And this is what Moses he kept trying to get them to understand. He didn't want them to just go into the land. He wanted them to keep the land. He didn't want them to just live there. He wanted them to flourish. He didn't want them to just survive there. He wanted them to thrive there in the land of promise. This is amazing grace that God would make his will known and clear to them in this way, unlike the other nations that were grasping at straws, never knowing which God was angry at them or for what reason or what to do to make it right. Verse 25. It will be righteousness for us if we are careful to observe all this commandment before the Lord our God, just as he commanded us. So remember, there are none righteous, not one. This is from Romans. They and it goes all the way back. They weren't able to do it perfectly. They stumbled over and over. So thank God that Jesus came and became that for us, that grace upon grace. But that's not what Moses is up to here. What Moses is saying here is that because we've been set free, because he has liberated us, because he has delivered us, because he has brought us out to bring us in, because he has done such amazing things for us, that being intentional in living God's will and living God's way, that this is a proper or a right response to the grace that has been given. So if you're there today and God has set you free, obedience is the right response to grace. And that's what's going on here. Okay, we're going to go to some application and we'll be all done. As we wrap up, I just want to, I want us to remember something really important. And that is that in the New Testament, there's over 1,000 imperatives. So these are commands. These are things that, sayings that they tell us how to be, how to live, what to avoid, what not to do, what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to make disciples. We're supposed to avoid drunkenness, extramarital relations. We're supposed to honor wedding vows. We're supposed to be gentle and kind. And there's over 1,000 commands on how we live. And in the New Testament, likewise, in the Old Testament, there's massive amounts of grace. Okay, even the law itself was considered a gift. It's a blessing. The law itself given to Israel was grace. So there's two paths, two experiences that I want to warn you about that can infiltrate into the Christian experience. And the first one is that the law is not grace. The law is not grace. Now, people that have experienced Christianity this way, and it's actually a mindset that is held by many non-believers that are turned off by Christianity because they have this concept of law, that the law is not grace. And so what do I mean by that? If this is your experience, maybe that you really want to go do this, but the Bible says don't do that, and so you feel like the command to not do it, or the restriction to do it, that doesn't allow you to do what you want, is this yoke, this burden, it's something that's taken away your freedom from what you really want to do, and in this mindset where it's all focused on the law not being grace, your relationship with God becomes very transactional, and you come to church, but you sing the songs, but you're doing it, it's very dry, and you're putting money in the plate, but it's turned into this very transactional kind of static experience where there's no life in it, and basically you're trying to follow the rules because you want God appeased. You don't want him angry at you, and things like that. With this mindset, the law becomes this really heavy burden. So in that way, the law is not grace. Okay, and this is the experience of many Christians. The second warning I want to give you is to experience, quote unquote, experience grace with no law. So what happens? The first one is that the law is not grace, and the second one is that that grace has no law. And what happens when you've entered into this Christian experience is that if you think that grace is so far removed from the law, is that you can live however you want, and grace will just wash over it. It's okay. There's grace. The grace takes care of the law, and so we see this all around us as well. People claiming to be under grace and using that as an excuse to live lawlessly, as if there are no commands to not do the things that they're doing. So there's really two extremes here, two dangers, two pitfalls that we can fall into if we don't successfully marry law and grace as it teaches us in the Bible. It's grace upon grace that we've received. It's Jesus and the law that we get. And so it's the restrictions and the commandments. These are huge blessing for us, but also that Jesus has come and he's taken the curse for us breaking these laws and not being able to keep every single one of them. He's taken that curse from us, and that's just more grace upon more grace. So that's our study this morning. If you've fallen into one of these two categories where the commands of the Bible have just become oppressive to you and they're holding you down, and you think you'd be so much happier without them, that's one danger. The other danger is that the grace there's so much grace, I can do whatever I want. I can live as if there are no commands or restrictions on my life. These are two very dangerous things that come with misinterpreting the law and grace. How do we get out of it? I would suggest that you know your story. When Moses said, when the kids come and they ask you, why does our life look so much different from the neighboring tribe? Why are we doing all these things so much differently? Moses' commanded response for the parents was to tell them the story. Look, I was a slave, and we were slaves, and God set us free. And so now we have these commands to keep us that way. And if you rehearse your story, what has God set you free from? Then that's going to help you give a response to not only people on the outside asking you, why won't you come with us? Or why won't you be with that person? Or why won't you come and join us in this behavior? And you're saying, no, I can't do that. It's not because you have this restriction and chain on you that you're not allowed to do it. It's that you've been set free from that. And you want to stay free from that. And these commands that we have, that this knowing God's will is a huge blessing on your life. And so it's an opportunity for you to share your testimony. I hope this study has been helpful to you this morning. And I just want to pray for you. Father, I pray for anyone that's fallen into any one of these experiences where their walk has become static and dry and oppressive, or that they have just forgotten about that you care about how we live and that you want us to stay free. I pray for anyone, Lord, that's fallen into one of these two categories this morning. I pray that you break them free, God, once again, and that we would be reminded of our stories and that we would be challenged, Lord, to live by grace, under grace, knowing that we're free and wanting to stay that way. Lord, we bless you and we trust you. In Jesus' name, amen.
All these busy take our failure, you take our weakness. You set your treasure in jars of clay. So take these heart, Lord, I'll be your vessel, the world to see your love in me. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life.
That's our service this morning, you guys. I just pray God bless you. We miss meeting so much. We're hoping to open the doors again soon, and that we'll all be able to gather again soon, hopefully in June. But we'll keep you posted. Stay tuned to these online services. And again, let us know. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know how things are going. So God bless you, and we'll see you next week.